Hello and welcome back to Lightworker Training. My name is Tatiana and the topic of today's video is Lightwork as Science and Art. So what am I talking about? Guess you'll just have to stay tuned to find out. All right, so what I want to get into with today's topic is the fact that when we do this work, and as you've heard me say time and again, this is light work is something that it's a way of life. So what I'm talking about here is engaging in our lives in both a scientific and artistic way. So we are going to be engaging, should we choose, our holistic intelligence. And what do I mean by that? I mean not just being in our right brain, our receptive mind of receiving inspiration and intuitive hits on things, employing our imagination, wondering and opening to the possibilities of infinite situations, infinite expressions of life, of ourselves. And so not just engaging the right brain, but also engaging the left brain and logic and reason, using our God-given brains and intelligence to be able to engage discernment and sort through the information, analyze the information, and tune into, is that logical? Does that make sense? Um, I think that both of these ways of engaging with information is absolutely essential. And what I tend to see is that people will run their energy through either the right or the left brain predominantly. So either being very open and intuitive, imaginative, creative, or being very logical and analytical and maybe more skeptical, right? So we actually need both of these things in operation all the time. So if you don't have that receptivity, if you don't have an imagination to even wonder or imagine that there's maybe something else out there, if you don't even wonder or imagine that there could be something to discover, you won't even seek for it, right? You won't apply your logic and reason to discovering what it is, right? So you have to be able to at least imagine a possibility to then go and figure out how you get from point A to point B, or come up with some possible strategies, right? So we have to have both of these things. If we only have imagination and intuition and receptivity without the sorting and discernment and analyzing of information, then we could be acting on things that aren't even for us to act on. We could be, because like I was saying in the last, was that the last video? It might have been the one before that, that we're like big receivers, we're like antennas for universal information. A lot of what we're picking up on is stuff in the collective mind of humanity. It could also be picking up on things in the realms of nature. It could be picking up on all kinds of things. So we want to not only be open to receiving messages, but have the logical capability to be able to tune in and question, okay, what channel was that? Who did that thought belong to? Is that even mine? Is that for me to know, or me to do, or for me to act on? We need to be able to have both of these modes of um, intellect in operation. Okay, so holistic intelligence is what we will be employing in light work. We must have both things on board. Okay, so that's why light work is both a science and an art, because we have the more artistic, creative, intuitive aspect that can't maybe really be explained. We're just like, I don't know, I just felt like doing pink, and it just turned out that pink was the perfect thing. So we get this knowingness of what the correct medicine is, whether it's a color ray or an herb or an energy or a word or something comes through, and we're like, yeah, that's it. We don't know how we know, but we know. And then we can apply the scientific analytical mind, right, to experiment and test. Does it actually work? Oh, let's experiment. Let's try. So I'm just intuitively, I'm getting this pink vibe. Okay, let's try it. Let's look at it. Would pink be a logical choice? Yes, it would. Well, just turns out pink is actually good for that. Okay, great. So let's try it and see what happens. Okay, let's do this experiment. Let's see what we do, how we apply the pink. We apply it this way, we apply it that way. What happens when we do it that way? What happens when we do it that way? Right? So, and then, as we're doing that, then we might find inspiration in those moments of the experimentation and discernment of what the results are and how it was applied and what works better. In that, we might even be, well, I was doing it like this, and then suddenly I just felt like maybe I should do this instead. So these the art and the science are interweaving. They're creating this tapestry of our work, of our lives. And it is very crucial to understand that what I'm talking about here with science and art is that they are both practices. They are practices. So when you engage in an artistic pursuit, there's no end. You can do it forever. You can master it, but that doesn't mean that there's nothing left to explore. There is always something more to discover in the art form. It's endless. So even people who are very masterful with, say, playing an instrument, for example, painting perhaps, very masterful, but they're always discovering some nuance, some richness. And it's so, what's the word I'm looking for? Engaging was not the word, but it'll work. It's so engaging that they can do it for the rest of their lives. They could do it every day for the rest of their lives and still find so much richness to explore and so much joy and satisfaction from exploring and discovering what else is there to be discovered. Same thing with science. So science isn't this thing where it's like, oh, well, we discovered it, that's it, that's the way it is. No, there is always so much more to explore. We are always learning and evolving through our engagement with these techniques of art and science. So as we practice an artistic approach or a scientific approach, and really it's, it starts to get to the point where it's like, okay, well, they both actually depend on one another. This is the sacred marriage that it's not it's been what's the word I'm looking for? It's not that it's not around right now, it's that we live in a world where there's a lot of separation and divorce and splitting. We live in a world where there's a lot of splitting. People are split in their minds. People have split the artist and scientist parts of themselves. They have split the masculine and feminine aspects of themselves. So what was I saying? So both of these things are practices. So these practices, as we engage with them, they evolve. They evolve. It's never a static thing. Art is never a static thing. It's something that's evolving. Science is never a static thing. It's something that's evolving. It's a practice. Science is a method. Art is a method. It's a way of engaging with a medium of your choice, right? Science is a way of engaging with the practice that you're in. Are you taking a scientific approach, or are you just kind of, throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall and seeing what'll stick? But I mean, even that could be a scientific approach if you're like, well, when I threw it like this, that's what happened. So we all have the capacity to do this work. We have these God-given inherent capacities to do this work. Some of us might be stronger at intuitive knowing. Some of us might be stronger at logical analysis, but we all have the capacity to engage with both and to bring them together in a way that makes sense for us. Just because we have been taught one way or the other way doesn't mean that that other part of ourselves is dead or completely atrophied. It might feel a little inaccessible, might feel a little awkward, but it's really important that we work to find this balance and this connection, because it's like we're going around like I'm just thinking of the tennis players in Infinite Jest, the novel by David Foster Wallace, and this is probably based on the true nature of tennis players. I don't know, but he described them as like, being very lopsided, because their racket arm would be like twice the size of their other arm. Now, I haven't noticed that in tennis players, but do we have that kind of imbalance where it's like one part of our brain is way bigger than the other part? One part of our, spiritual muscle is stronger than another part. Yes, we all have some kind of imbalance, because the world we live in is not supportive of holistic intelligence at all. so, um, so it takes a little bit of work to get back to this point, but trust me, you do have what it takes. We all have what it takes to be able to do this. Um, that is any of us who are watching this video, because chances are, if you don't have what it takes, because you're a soulless drone in the hive mind, then you wouldn't be watching this video. Okay, so let's see, what else do I want to say about this? Okay, so as you engage in strengthening, balancing, and bringing your holistic intelligence to the task at hand, you will find that you have your own unique specialties and fields of interest, or maybe just one field of interest. But it might not be exactly what I'm into. It might not be what anybody else is into. But you will find your own way, your own special signature blend of, different aspects of art and science. You will find your own niche within it, and what lights you up and brings you joy, and what feels exciting to you, that there's so much to explore. So when you find that thing that feels like so big that you'll never be done exploring it, that's a good sign that you're on the right path. And please don't be overwhelmed, because in anything that's really a calling of your heart, there's no end. There's no end to the discoveries that you can make. There's no end to the refinement of your mastery in that art and science. There's no point where you're like, I'm good. I don't ever need to, paint another picture or play another song. Like, I've done it all. I've painted it all. No, because every time you play, every time you paint, every time you do a light work session, every time you engage your consciousness in this realm, it's going to be different. Maybe a lot different, maybe just a little bit different. But and that's part of the fun, is you never know what's going to happen. So it's exciting, it's a fun, and it's endless. So rather than get overwhelmed with like, oh, are we there yet? I'm never gonna master this. No, you will master it, but you won't get to the point in this life of being like, well, there's nothing left to do. There will always be something to do. There's no end to what we can do and what we will do. So you might as well just enjoy the process of learning, of playing, of creating, because that's what we live for. That's why we're here. That's why we exist, is to create and to learn. So I think that's pretty much what I wanted to cover for today. This principle of light work as both science and art, the importance of holistic intelligence. I keep going like this or like this, bringing the two halves together. I will talk a lot about the split mind and things like that when we get into our chapter on mind and mindset and mental types of techniques. But I think for this principle, this is a good place to end. And I will be back with, I'm trying to think what I'm going to do next. I think I might talk a little bit about the buffet of life, picking and choosing from the buffet of life. And I think I want to also do a video on what is and what isn't bypassing. So probably one of those will be next. And I hope you will come back and join me for more as we get closer to, I feel like we've only got a few more videos maybe for principles, and then we're going to start moving into some of the foundations of light work and some more practices. So I'm going to leave it there for today. As always, go ahead and comment. I would love to come through and just respond and share information. If you have questions, comments about anything, I'd love to hear it. You can find me at lightworkertraining.org, and I will see you next time on Lightworker Training. Thanks for being here. Bye for now.